I looked away for just a little a second, he told the first police officer to arrive on the scene. I stopped to help. That's why I stopped. I didn't even know I was involved. Misery, thought Mary. That was what they had in common. Misery and bewilderment and coming here. Mr. Hammond, dapper and reasonable, sat a few rows in front of her. She was familiar with his pain just as she knew her own and that of Mr. Hazen, a large African-American who occupied the seat beside her. Mr. Hazen's fleshy cheeks began a pattern that the rest of his body followed in waves to his robust belly. He was a garbage collector who came to each meeting freshly showered, emitting a halo of deodorant and wearing one of a pair of suits, their cut identical, one a blue verging on black, the other gray. Tonight he wore the gray. He seemed to have 4 ties. Tonight's was the more subdued of the quartet. His 16-year-old son, Oxford, had been picked up by a man fleeing arrest for failure to pay child support in Nevada. It was not Oxford Hazen's practice to hitchhike, but he was late for school. In fact, he was just jogging along the roadside in order to get to school as quickly as possible when the Jeep Cherokee, driven by Dwayne Values, pulled over, and Dwayne asked if he could help. Once in the vehicle, Oxford knew he was in trouble. Dwayne jumped them up to 70 in a 40-mile zone, and he was talking just as fast. Mr. Hazen had learned of these events from Oxford as the boy managed a half-day of lucidity in the hospital bed in which he died the following morning. Often, Mr. Hazen obsessively described the electronic beeping on a screen above the bed, where the angular line full of jumps and squiggles leveled out and fled with his son's life. For Oxford, it had been important to make clear the fact that he had not been disobeying his father's orders against hitchhiking. When the Cherokees started to take corners on 2 wheels, he had demanded that he be let out. He'd shouted that they'd missed his stop. Dwayne Values, chugging Heaven Hill bourbon from a nearly empty quart bottle, had declared that he would turn around then and back up. He wanted to be of help. He wanted to do right. He bellowed about a need to make recompense for sins committed against Oxford and his kind all over the states of Texas, Oklahoma, and Nevada. He declared himself a former racist who, through the travails of divorce and its subsequent misery, had been made human. Tilting with the overwhelming sincerity that this declaration aroused in him, he tried to pat Oxford's cheek and rub his hair. When Oxford ducked, Values lunged and dropped the bottle. "Pick it up now!" he screamed. "It's going to spill!" The road turned, but Values was too busy rescuing the bourbon. They smashed into a stand of palm trees and ricocheted broadside into an Impala parked in a driveway. The Impala skidded, then flipped over and ended up wedged against the garage. Values, spraying blood and spilling organs, died in the area compressed to nothing between the dislodged engine and the collapsing chest of Oxford Hazen. Every once in a while, Mr. Hazen retold the story, laying out the details from start to finish. Each time was oddly verbatim, as if he were delivering a memorized speech in a tone that suggested thoughtful research. Earlier tonight, when he'd stood to take the floor at the start of the evening, Mary had attended him closely, meeting his eyes with a sympathetic interest, not wanting to be rude. But her mind wandered. Every now and then she returned to him, visiting one sad point or another. As always, he ended with a puzzled sigh and a waggle of his head as he found himself unable to alter the bitter facts and ironies of his loss. Richard Hammond was tall and groomed. He liked trendy suits tailored to his well-exercised physique. His taste in ties was exquisite, while his attraction to tasseled loafers made Mary want to take him aside and give him advice. He was a venture capitalist whose wife had died in a head-on collision with a pickup truck exiting a San Diego freeway entrance.